Going to deal with the question on from Studio 7 around PWDs. Excuse me. Of course, we have made a decisive and clear position that our processes must be all-inclusive of different sections of society. If you note from the number of nominations that we've received, you have seen people from different races, you have seen people from different genders, you have seen people from different tribal and cultural background. Why this is important for us to submit the process in the hands of the citizens, because it is them who are able to deploy. But nonetheless, you can look at where the party deploys, particularly for proportional representation in parliament and in local authorities. That's where we have the ability to be able to deploy people of different backgrounds, and definitely you will see from our process. And not only that, if you look at the composition of our panel, we also have people who are in the commission, particularly in Bulawayo, who's actually from the community of people living with disabilities. So it shows our stand commitment, it shows that we are all inclusive, and we're going to make sure, and as if they've said, it's very interesting because the current process produced what ordinarily internal party primaries would not have produced, because you are seeing the elderly, you are seeing younger people, you are seeing a lot of people, even with competence, being nominated. Remember that our process was happening in a two-side system, conversing with the people in the villages and the streets, but also talking to stakeholders. So there are some people who actually came from the stakeholders, who were not necessarily from the street point person, to show that we want it to be more inclusive, to show that we want to make sure that everyone who has got the capacity and whom the society and the community feels must be forwarded are the people who are going to be vetted, after which we go to the last and final stage of validation. From validation during our caucuses, we're going to then make it public. Of course, it is the duty of the commission to do that, to make sure that they announce the final list of the successful candidates that are going to be representing CCC, and we expect that process to be done in the next few days. Thank you very much. Until if there are, yes?
The diaspora, how were they involved?
Of course, the diaspora plays a very important role in our consultative processes, because if you look at some of the stakeholders, are people who have worked with particular constituencies, not diaspora in its entirety, but there are certain individuals, certain institutions, certain fellow Zimbabweans in the diaspora who have worked. Remember that when we started our Mgwazo program, we twinned certain rural constituencies with the diaspora. So those naturally are part and parcel of the strategic stakeholders that have been consulted, so that they give their words, so that they give their views in terms of who should represent community in those ones. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Lord.
Okay, there are also some characters that you have seen that are already celebrating. What is your message? Some people are already going around saying that
I wouldn't advise any champion and any citizen to celebrate anything in this particular stage, because this is stage for nominations and our process is 3 stages after, because there's going to be a very important security vetting process. And of course, after that, the caucuses is going to make a decisive view of the citizens in terms of who should be the candidates preferred in the constituency. So it is not only premature, but it is politically unstrategic for anyone to celebrate. But it is important for people to be happy, because we're a happy movement. All these people are valued in our movement. You realize that some of the people who might not make it are people who are going to be eligible to be deployed in other strategic sectors of government when we form the next government come September this year. Thank you very much. Yes, I think there's a one question.
Okay, you mentioned a very interesting section, which is the security vetting. What's the process going to be like? Especially considering when you talk of security issues, you're also talking of convictions, candidates who might have been convicted before by the system. How are you going to deal with that?
Of course, that's a very important question. This process is not intended to target people that have been convicted through persecution by prosecution. This is a security vetting of one's credentials. You know that we broadly belong to the democratic tradition and the democratic family. So these are security issues that must be looked for, one's history and their past, in terms of their qualification. And as they've read out, there's a certain vetting committee that was set by the movement, which is looking at those things. That's why some of the candidates have already been contacted to submit to the vetting committee their curriculum vitae, so that the department can be able to vet in terms of one's credentials, where they are coming from. Because at the end of the day, this is a citizens project, but we must be able to look at who that particular individual are, so that we avoid some of the problems that we've witnessed before, broadly as a democratic family.
Can you confirm that Jim Kunaga has been nominated in one of the constituencies?
Look, I'm not the commission, and I might not be able to confirm any individual that has been nominated. What we can do at this stage is to make it known and public that we have received nominations. In fact, the report that we got from the commission proves that there are more than 2,000 people that have been nominated only for the 210 constituencies. There are more than 30,000 forms that have been received for people who want to go to council. So there's an overwhelming subscription and appetite for Zimbabweans to be deployed for this important national duty come 2023 election. So the said individuals being nominated are going to be confirmed after the vetting. After the vetting, people get validated, and only in the final stage are you going to have the names of people who are going to successfully represent CCC. So at this stage, there are more than 30,000 people that wants to go to council, more than 2,000 that want to go to parliament, according to the nominations from the citizens. So after all these processes, the commission will obviously make it public in terms of the people who are going to be successful in these processes. I think there are no further questions. I have to thank you, members of the 40th state. Fellow Zimbabweans, let me thank all the citizens that came out in numbers. We don't take for granted the overwhelming subscription and participation of ordinary people, Zimbabwean citizens, that came in their big numbers in this process, because it shows that the people have their movement, that the people want change. And this has been assured by the commission and the movement that we are going to adhere to our rules and guidelines and make sure that we produce the best council that has been built by the people. Fellow Zimbabweans, fellow Africans, thank you. Have a great day.